So yes, I am back, and I'm probably back to stay. I hope I don't have to go on another one of those periods of inactivity, if you will. I'm back! What's up everyone? Welcome to Massive Unboxing Episode 2. It's your host Ray. In today's video, I'll be showing off all of the models that I've received in my period of inactivity of 2022. My statements from last year during my Massive Unboxing didn't really age well, but what matters is that I'm back, and this time I really do hope to stay as long as I can. I don't think I want to go on another period where I don't upload anything, because I miss making these videos. And I know some of you guys actually enjoy the content that I post, which I greatly appreciate. Anywho, today's video, like I said, I'm going to talk about every single model that I've received in my collection since I went inactive in September. And I'm just going to say this right now, it's a little bit more than what I did last year, and there's certainly a lot more variety. For starters, there's more 1 to 200 scale aircraft this time around, and like last year, there is a spacecraft involved, and you can see that on the right side of your screen. So enough talk about that. Here's how this video is going to go. I'm going to separate the models that I talk about into 3 different categories. The first category is the models that I ordered online and received through mail. Second category, which has the most models, is going to be the category of the models that I got in person at conventions at the store. And the third category is a few models that I'd like to mention and give some camera time to, because they're not really going to get any attention after that. The first 2 categories I'm just going to combine together, since that's the main focus of the video, and then the special mentions I'll do at the end. Enough talk though, there's a lot to cover. This video is going to be pretty long, so sit back, relax, grab yourself something nice to eat and drink, and let's get this party started. Starting off the unboxing with an NG model like in Massive Unboxing 1, this one comes in from the Midwest Model Store. And this was the first model I received after I announced that I wouldn't be posting. And this one's quite interesting. I already opened it and everything, but I'd like to reopen it for you guys. And, well, it's not the model itself that's interesting. Well, it's interesting, but something weird happened with the plastic protection case, as you can see. The edges appeared to have, like, shrank or something. I guess they were exposed to too much heat and they were warped because of that. And the model inside is fine, and it's just very hard to access the model without flinging the whole box. So yeah, there's the little sheet, and here's the model. So I'll show you guys that. So here's the model. Looks pretty solid. I really don't have any complaints about it. And from what I remember, the quality control on this model was pretty solid, and I'm very glad that I have the passenger version of Alaska 737-700s, because up until I had this model, I only had the cargo versions from Gemini jets, and I'm not really a cargo collector, so I'm glad that I finally have the passenger version. And this model's pretty solid, and I'll always like NG's 737 mold, and I'll definitely prefer it over Gemini's. So glad to have this one, though the packaging was rather interesting. Let's keep it going. Models 2 and 3 come in from the Alaska Airlines Company store in Seattle, Washington, and these are the Gemini Jets 1 to 400 scale Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9s in the West Coast Wonders livery. I believe that's what the name was. I'm not 100% sure. It's a livery with the whales on them, and these aircraft look beautiful. I love the livery, although quality control on this batch, like always, was rather questionable. This example is the better one of the two, since the wheels roll and everything seems to be in the right spot. I guess I got lucky on this one because the engines aren't bent upward, and that's been a trend for Gemini for the past year or so. On both their 1 to 400 and 1 to 200 scale 737 MAX family models, the engines have started to bend upwards, mostly on the 1 to 400 versions, but some 1 to 200 examples also have this issue now. However, these two don't have that, so I got very lucky in terms of quality control. These models do look pretty beautiful, and I'm very glad that I have them in my collection. I also got these a few days after I got the 737-700 that I previously showed you guys a few minutes ago. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about them. The wheels on this one don't roll. The left main wheel got bent back pretty far, and the nose gear is bent forward for some reason, so I wasn't too lucky on quality control with one of them, but the other one is fine, so I won't complain too much. The next three models fall under the category of in-person models. I got these at the Grayling Station store in Chicago, and these actually came at a cost because this is the new Gemini Jets Delta 757-300, and before I had the one that was released in February of 2021, and that one's tail registration was N586NW, and this is N590NW, and I didn't need two Delta 757-300s, and as much as I loved N586, I ended up selling that one to my friend who is collecting a ton of Delta planes. But still, I'm glad that I have a good 757-300, but I just wanted to mention that my fleet grew, but it also came at a little bit of a cost. The other two, though, this one, I'm not sure when this was released, but they had it in stock, and I took advantage and I got it. And this United 757-300, I've been waiting for this one for so long. I love the 757-300, and I love United's new livery, if it hasn't become obvious already. So this one was a must-have. Quality control, from what I saw, was pretty questionable on the examples that Grayling received, which was really sad, but I was able to secure a few with good quality control. So first I'll talk about the 737 MAX, so let's open this one. I've been trying to increase the amount of Air Canada planes I have in my collection because honestly, I really love their livery. Looks pretty cool. And here she is. So here it is. Model looks pretty good. The only issue that I have with this model is that the engines are pointed up, like most Gemini Jet 737 MAX family planes these days. But it's still good nonetheless. The wheels roll very smoothly. And aside from the engines, everything else is pretty solid. So quality control on this one was pretty good. And probably because it was released a few years ago, so quality control was a little bit better a few years ago than it is now. But yeah, I'm very excited to have this one. I bought this by complete chance. I saw it, and I was just like, I'm not going to have any other opportunities to get this at a reasonable price, so I got it, and here it is. Next up, we got the Delta 757-300. This is the new one from 2022, as I said earlier. I found it rather interesting that Gemini released two Delta 757-300s within a year of each other. We usually don't get the same model twice in such a short period of time unless it's an Emirates A380. And oh my goodness, here it is. Looks pretty solid. I'm going to give you guys a quick 360 of the model, and I'm just going to talk about it for a bit. A lot of the issues that I noticed with this model is a few of them had completely bent engines, and a lot of collectors started questioning what happened because Gemini's 757 mold historically and nowadays has always been pretty good and consistent in terms of quality control. Even though it's a cradle mold, it's still very good compared to what else the competition has to offer. For example, NG model, they have their 757 mold. It's really good, but Gemini does put a good fight up with that one. And Gemini 757-300 mold has always been good, so it was surprising to see so many quality control issues with it. The wheels, all the wheels roll on this one, I think. Yeah, they all roll. And on some of the ones that I looked at, they didn't roll. But aside from that, quality control has been mostly consistent with this, but there are a few more examples of this aircraft with bad quality control. I've seen messed up noses, messed up engines, so that was really sad to see. And there goes my dog. And finally, the one that I'm the most excited for, the United 757-300. So here's this one. This was certainly a surprising release. I did not expect it to happen, even though Gemini put it on their future release previews page. It's still, I'm just very glad that it exists. So based on what I saw, the quality control on this one was actually even worse than the Delta 757-300 that I just showed you guys. This one had all sorts of issues like bent engines. I saw this on the ones at Grayling. Tires not rolling, nose shapes messed up. I think I remember seeing a few more things. I don't remember seeing any broken ones, but it was still pretty upsetting to see this out of Gemini and out of such a good mold. But a lot of them were pretty good examples, like this one. I managed to find this one in a pile of these at the store, and yeah, it's a really solid model. I love the way it looks. I love the way United's livery fits on the 757-300, and I just love the model. Wheels roll smoothly somehow. Yeah, they all roll smoothly. And they even have the little gray spot on top of the Wi-Fi dome, which it's not exactly aligned, but it's a very small gray spot, so I can't complain either. Overall, I'm very glad that I have this model, and I'm excited to keep it in my collection. The next 5 models fall under the category of in-person models. I got these at the Chicago Airline Collectibles Show of fall of 2022, which happened on October 29th of 2022. And some of these models I certainly didn't expect to get. However, I'm very happy with all of my purchases except for the 1-200 model. And ironically, this is the first 1-200 model out of this video. So let's see what these have to offer. The first model out of the 5 models that I bought is the Gemini Jets American Airlines Airbus A319. This was the one released in 2022 because there's no way I would have been able to get the one released earlier without paying an absurd price for it. And originally, I actually saw this one at the Greyland station when I was buying the 757s and the Air Canada 737 MAX 8 that I just showed you. And I saw this one and I instantly said, no, thank you, because those engines are huge. They're way too big for the A320 family. And I mean, just look at them. It looks like an A319 new engine options variant, but it's not. However, I saw this at the table that was selling models. This actually comes from DG Pilot in Minnesota, and they were at the show, and I figured I'd buy one because why not? And yeah, here it is. Quality control on this one, on this aircraft in general, hasn't been pretty good, but I found a good example. The wheels roll with some difficulty, but they do roll. And yeah, I'm glad I have this one in my collection, but I'm probably going to get rid of it if NG releases their own version. Model number 2 out of 5 is the Gemini Jets Hawaiian Airlines Airbus A330-200. This one I certainly did not expect to find at the show. However, I found a very nice guy who was selling some of his Hawaiian Airlines collection, and I've actually been after this aircraft for a while. I'm very fond of Hawaiian Airlines aircraft, despite the fact that I only have one in my fleet, well, 2 with this one. And the reason I got this is because, 1, it's a cool aircraft, and 2, I actually flew on one of these many years ago. I was flying to Hawaii and when I was a kid in elementary school, and I flew on a Hawaiian Airlines Airbus A330-200. I didn't get a window seat or anything fancy like that. It was just a seat in the middle of the plane, but it was still a cool experience, and I mean, who doesn't want to fly to Hawaii? It's pretty cool. This model I bought, and it was caked in dust. And that's the thing with buying used models. They usually have dust and stuff. However, that is not a problem for me. I love cleaning my models and taking good care of them. And within about 5 minutes of getting home, I was able to clean off the model. This model isn't without fault, though. If you guys didn't notice earlier, the right main landing gear is kind of iffy with the way it pivots. It pivots from side to side as well. It holds together. That's what I care about. I just don't want this thing to break. It holds together, but it is very loose on the pivot. The left main gear is a lot better, though. It pivots within reasonable range. All the wheels roll, so I won't complain about that. And yeah, there's this one. Glad to have it in my collection. The third model in this set is the NG Model 1-400 scale United Airlines Boeing 777-300 extra range. And you might be questioning this one if you've watched my channel for long enough, because you know I have the Aviation 400 version, and I absolutely love that model to hell and back. So you might be wondering why I decided to get this model. Well, as one of the people I was walking with said, the intrusive thoughts got me. I couldn't stop myself from getting this model because, as I said earlier, I love United aircraft. And NG's 777 mold, I haven't had any experience with it, and I figured it was a good excuse to get this model. And this model is solid in some parts. I really like a lot of features on it. However, it's not as good as the Aviation 400 version. They both have problems, but this one I think has a little bit, a few more problems. Like, for example, the nose shape. The shape above the cockpit here, it's slanted too far, and then it angles out into the fuselage a little too... It's just a little sharp up here. Nose shape, aside from that, looks okay. An issue that a lot of collectors have had as well is the clearance of the engines with the ground. The engines, by the way, they look beautiful. Look at those fan blades. All those look gorgeous. I'm very tempted to paint them and put spinner spirals on them because I love adding engine details, but they look beautiful. The engines come into very close contact with the ground. They don't touch the ground, but they're very close. That's just a few of the issues. I've also seen issues with the APU here. Oh my god, what is that? People don't really like the APU exhaust on this model, but aside from that, it's pretty decent. So I'm not sure what I want to do with this. I might just keep it, even though I have another one. I might as well just keep it. And the thing that got me the most was the presentation. And what by presentation I mean in the box. Normally I'm used to NG providing a clear plastic protection covering, and they do that for the top section, but this here's the bottom section. Here, I'm just going to move the model. It's a very dark black color, and that got me instantly. It's something I've never seen before, and it's very unique. It fits the aircraft very nicely. Black, blue, white, gray. I love that color contrast. And the rewards plan card was a dark blue. I love the color blue, and I was just like, okay, I can't miss this. Next thing I knew, I had the model, so that's the story about that one. The last 1/400 scale aircraft out of this set is the Gemini Jets 1/400 scale Lufthansa Airbus A340-300. This model, I saw it, and without hesitation, I grabbed it and bought it on the spot. I love the Lufthansa aircraft, and I love the A340, and unfortunately I've never had the chance to own one. So even though this one is in the new livery, which I'm not too big of a fan of when comparing it to the old livery, I saw Lufthansa A340 and boom, got it. And I wish I had checked it a little bit more, because this one had a few issues with the landing gear. And once I noticed, I asked the seller if he had any more, and he didn't. So when I got home, I followed my philosophy of returning every model that is in my collection to one as closest to factory condition as possible, and I went straight to work and I bent the landing gear back into position. The center landing gear on the fuselage here was like bent to the left, I think it was. It was bent a lot, and it didn't look too good. So I bent it back. The nose gear also had some issues. I think it was bent backwards, and you can see it is still kind of bent backwards. And I left it that way because I didn't want to bend it and break it. But I fixed that as well. And the wing landing gear, the tilt on them is the pivot on them is very loose. But they're staying in their spots, so I won't complain too much. And I just noticed the wheel on this one is kind of separated, so I'm going to have to move that back once I finish the video. But aside from that, this aircraft is beautiful. Glad to have it here. And that concludes the 1/400 scale aircraft out of this set of 5. Last model out of this set, and the first 1/200 model of this video, is the Gemini 200 Southwest Airlines Boeing 737-800. This one, I'm just going to say it right here, right now. I bought this one out of complete peer pressure. I'm just kidding, no. One of the people I was walking with for some of the time saw this model. They pointed it out to me. They're like, it's a good deal, it's a good model, grab it. And after a lot of thinking, I did. I didn't have any other models that I wanted to buy, and even though I already have Southwest Airlines 737-800 and 1/200 scale, that one is the Heart 1 version actually, I figured it would be a good idea to add a regular livery one into my fleet, and here it is. And after bringing it home, I kind of saw why it was at such a good price, because you can kind of see the wings are not exactly, the wing flex isn't exactly balanced. The right wing is kind of a little bit bent downwards when compared to the left wing. And the gear balance isn't the best from what I remember, but these are small details that I really don't care about, so or I don't care about that too much because they're hard to notice. So I'll let this one slide, though I'm not as big of a fan of that, so there's that. It's cool to have this one, and that concludes my model set from the Chicago Airline Collectible Show. The next 3 models I received on Halloween actually, and these come in from My Hobby House in Malaysia. So I definitely went around the world. Well, I didn't go around the world, but I got my models from around the world. And here we have 2 1/200 scale models and 1 1/400 scale model. I'll go over the 1/200 models first, and then I'll go over the 1/400 model. I'll start off with the Gemini 200 Spirit Airlines Airbus A320. This model was released in 2020, and I got this model by complete chance. I saw on My Hobby House that they had some pretty good deals for some good American 1/200 scale models, and they were the only model store who had the 1/400 scale model in stock still at a reasonable price at least. And I saw that I could get a good deal out of it, even though I'd have to wait a while, and I said screw it, and boom, bought it. And quality control on this one was pretty scary actually. The nose gear was bent a lot. Anywho, I think there was also an antenna that was bent. I think the front antenna was bent, and I fixed that right away. And yeah, that's the story with this one. This one also has, it's tail heavy, as you can see, and it's just heavy in general. It's very heavy. I'm not sure what they did with this, but it's a very heavy model, and I like the models that are heavy, but I don't like them when they're too heavy and I can't carry them as easily. So it's definitely a finger workout to move this thing. And something I don't like about this one as well, you can kind of see those cockpit windows are definitely printed off balance. They're leaning towards the left side of the aircraft. Gear balance on this model isn't really the best either. The wing flex is pretty high, but I'm still going to keep it. It looks fine from this angle, and that's the angle that I'm going to display it from. And I love Spirit Airlines, not their service, just I love their airplanes. And I flew on a Spirit A320 a little more than a year ago. I flew from Chicago to LA, and I figured, you know what, might as well increase my Spirit collection, and I got this one. So that's the story with this one. Next up, we got the Gemini 200 Southwest Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8, released in 2021. This model I also bought kind of out of peer pressure. Okay, I'll stop saying peer pressure. I was convinced to get this one because, well, I love Southwest Airlines livery. I love the 737 MAX 8. It's a beautiful aircraft, and I was told that the quality control on this set of models was really good. And I figured, you know what, might as well increase my 1 to 200 scale 737 MAX 8 total in my collection. Before this, I only had one. Now this is number 2. This model does not disappoint. I love it. The quality control is really good, except for the landing gear here. The landing gear kind of has a bit of an issue. If you hear someone screaming in the background, that's my family talking on the phone. They, for some reason, love screaming on the phone when they see someone new or something. I'm not sure. Anywho, the landing gear is not fit very well into the landing gear holes, and the magnetic attachment is pretty weak. So, yeah, they tend to lean back when I put the model on the ground here. I'm going to show you guys this really quick. This also happened on the other 737 MAX 8 that I own. Yep, there you go. You can see the gear leans back. But there's a rather interesting fix for that, and that's by fitting, like, foam parts in between the section of the gear that goes into the gear holes. And I tried that on the other MAX 8 that I have, and it works, so I'm going to do that to this. I'm going to do that same modification to this one shortly. And that modification actually came out of the same person who convinced me to get this model, so they've definitely had a huge influence on my 1 to 200 scale collection, so shout out to them. The final model out of my hobby house is the NG Model 1400 scale JetBlue Airbus A321. This is the newer release that was released in 2022, and this model was certainly appreciated by us American collectors because this model is very rare. It looks cool, it's a cool aircraft, and I mean, we needed it. NG has a very nice Airbus A320 family mold with, albeit a few issues, but those are forgivable for the most part. Yeah, this model is pretty solid. I'm very glad that I have it because it sold out like hotcakes. Earlier I said it was my hobby house was the only store that had it in stock, and I had this whole plan to buy this from the Midwest Model Store, but they ran out of stock so quickly that I was only able to get it from my hobby house, and I was very lucky to get it. This model didn't come without issues though. One of the antenna, I think it was this antenna behind the Wi-Fi dome, or the SAT dome, I'm sorry. I think it was loose, and it was actually pretty tricky to fix because NG's antennas are pretty small. They're accurate, obviously, but they're very small, and it was pretty tricky to fix, but I was able to fix it because I'm stubborn and I don't stop until my models are fixed or completely destroyed. 9 times out of 10, they're the first option, but sometimes they become the second option. I'm just kidding, no. I never destroy any of my models. But yeah, I was able to fix it, and now it's in my collection, so that's that. Another model that I certainly did not expect to have, and technically I shouldn't even have in the first place, the Gemini 200 Spirit Airlines Airbus A320neo. I got this model off of an eBay auction that was extremely cheap. I saw it was really cheap, and I just pulled the trigger and I got the model. I got this for $56 US, and I was just like, wow, that's really cheap for a model like this. I hope nothing's wrong with it, and of course something was wrong with it. Gather around, everyone. I've got a story to tell about this model, so here we go. So I got this model, I opened it up, and it's going to be very hard to get this thing back on the ground again. There we go. If it would stop falling over, that is. That's definitely going in the blooper section. I swear, everything in this world works against me making my videos. Anywho, so I opened the model. I'm just going to keep my finger there at this point. I opened the model, right? And it's caked in dust. Unlike anything I've ever seen. There's residue, there's dust, there's even hair on it. And I put on my gloves, instantly got to work, cleaned the thing off in about 5 minutes, but some of that stuff wouldn't come off, and I took a towel with some water on it, and it was just disgusting. That was the least of my concerns, though. The main gear was completely messed up. The left main gear was broken off, the right main gear was in horrible condition, wheels were missing, the antenna was broken, or the antenna at the top of the aircraft was broken. It was a nightmare. I was really upset. I got a refund, and I didn't know what to do. But as I said earlier, my philosophy with models is that I will do anything I can to return them to as close as factory condition as possible. And that's what I did. I contacted Gemini Jets for some replacement parts, specifically the left main landing gear, and they gave me way more than what I asked for. They gave me 2 Airbus A320 family landing gear sets and 4 large I think they're VHF antennas. Regardless, I got way more spare parts than I needed, and I went straight to work. And this is how it went.
That's a lot of damage. How about a little more?
What will you learn? What will you learn? That your actions have consequences!
Yes, that's right. I quite literally took a drill to the model and I destroyed the left main landing gear because it wouldn't come off. I was going to do the same thing with the right main landing gear, but I decided to save it because it's such a risky operation. And yeah, I drilled out the left main landing gear, cleaned up all of the glue and the gunk and the stuff that was in the cavity for the landing gear, waited for the spare parts to arrive, and when they did arrive, I got straight to work. And now the model is rolling on its 2 wheels. So it's rolling on, or not 2 wheels, it's rolling on its wheels. It's very tail heavy, as you can tell, so this is going to be very annoying to display. I might just stick it on a stand and call it a day. But you guys are probably wanting to see what came of it. And here's the bottom of the aircraft. This is what it looks like. You can barely, at first glance, you can almost see that it hasn't been touched at all. But I'll point out all the things that suggest that it's been messed with to hell and back. So first, this is the, which side is which? This is the right main landing gear. This is the one that stayed. You can see a lot of paint chipping on the inside of the landing gear strut that touches the door. A lot of paint chipping there. There's a few scratches on here from me trying to figure out how to remove it, but I ended up keeping it anyway. And here's the left main landing gear. This is the one that I drilled. You can, okay, geez, this looks a lot better than I thought it would. You can see there's a bit of gray paint missing here and up here as well. There's also a few scratches on the fuselage from me trying to pry out the landing gear, but aside from that, everything else looks mostly normal. There's a few scratches here and there on the wings, like there's a few missing printed details. I'll point those out shortly. Here, right here, sorry about that. And I think there's a notable one on the right wing as well, right here. Few missing printed details and scratch marks, but aside from that, model's in decent condition, and I'm probably going to keep this one in my collection because I doubt it would sell for very much. But yeah, I got my money back, and the total cost for this model for me was $10 for the replacement parts. So that was a total win in my book, honestly. I did not expect it to work. Like I said earlier, I drilled the main landing gear, and I had no plan going into that. I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to risk it all. This model's already messed up, so if I completely destroy it, so be it. And, well, it worked, so I won't complain at all. The next 3 models come in from Grayland Station in Chicago again because I visit that store way more times than I should, and I damage my wallet way more times than I should. I'm just kidding, I love that store to hell and back. I've got one 1-200 model and 2 1-400 models, and I'd like to go over the 1-200 model first because I actually ended up not needing to get it in the first place. So here's the 1-200 model. This is the Gemini 200 American Airlines Airbus A319. This was released, I think, a month after the 1-400 scale American A319 that I showed you guys earlier. Yeah, this is the 1-200 scale version of that aircraft, same tail registration and everything. And I bought this model because I wanted the spare parts for that Spirit A320neo that I just showed you guys, right? And on the Gemini Jets website, it says that you need a receipt from an authorized Gemini Jets retailer to prove that you purchased the model from the authorized retailer, otherwise they won't give you the spare parts that you asked for, right? So I buy this model because all I was looking for was generic Airbus A320 family landing gear and antennas. I didn't need anything specific to the Spirit aircraft. So I bought this model, and I figured if it was going to be my collection, I want it to be good quality, and the first one I opened, amazing quality. This model is really good. I'm very impressed by it overall, and I'm probably just going to keep this one, even though I had no intention of buying it. It's a beautiful model, and I'll keep this one in my collection. Anywho, I find out that I actually didn't end up needing the receipt because they didn't ask me for it. They're just like, okay, give us the parts you need, we'll send them over. Got into contact, yada, yada, yada. A few days later, way more parts than I expected show up, did the fix, and well, yeah, everything lives happily ever after. But yeah, I'm glad I have this model. It's a very nice model, so if you want to grab one, go for it. I have heard reports, unconfirmed reports, albeit of quality control being a little bit spotty, but honestly, on this model, it's pretty solid. Model number 2 out of this Greyland set is the Gemini Jets Delta Airlines Airbus A220-100. And if you guys watch Massive Unboxing number 1, I also had a Delta Airlines A220-100, although that one arrived damaged, and it was pretty funny actually. And you might be wondering why I got a new one. Well, Gemini released a new Airbus A220 family mold in 2022, and they released this model with it. I figured, hey, I might as well get it because it's a bit more realistic, a bit more detailed, and I just want to try out the new mold. I absolutely love this model. It looks awesome, and one thing I do appreciate about it a lot is the 3D sat dome here. I love 3D sat domes, I love the details, and I'm always picky for details and stuff, but I'm glad they did it, and it's pretty solid. The only thing that I have against it is, one, I saw a lot of engines being bent upwards because that's classical Gemini, and two, the nose gear is very tall, but the wheels roll and everything else looks fine, and overall, it's still a very nice model, very small. And you might be wondering what I'm going to be doing with that other one that I got last year. Well, that one's also going to be sold to the collector that I sold my Delta 757-300 to. Like I said, he's collecting a ton of Delta planes because he loves Delta and he's trying to collect as many Delta aircraft as possible. So that one's going to be going to him, and I'm going to be keeping this one. So that's the story behind this one. It's a nice model, glad I have it. Quality control was questionable in a few examples that I saw, and that's all I have to say about it. The last model from this set of my second Greyland trip is the Gemini Jets 1/400 scale British Airways Boeing 787-8. And originally I wasn't going to get this model because I saw it was a Gemini Jets 787 release. I love the 787. It's an amazing aircraft. It looks beautiful, so modern. I just love the 787. It's a nice plane. I like the Dash 9 version a lot because of it's just beautiful. The Dash 10 is also very nice. It's got a nice long fuselage. I don't like the Dash 8. Reason is because the wings are significantly longer than the fuselage, and normally I don't like I don't like planes that look like that. However, I saw that this model was being made with the JC Wings mold, and I love the JC Wing 787 mold because it's very good, and I believe the fan blade spin actually, which was certainly a surprise for a 1/400 scale aircraft. They lied to me. I guess they don't. On my Dash 10, on my United 787-10 that I got in 2020, that is also in the JC Wing 787 mold, the fan blades do spin, so I kind of expected that. I learned it was on the JC Wings mold, and I kind of gave it some thought. I went to Greyland thinking, okay, I might get it because, it's British Airways, it's 787. I like British Airways, I like 787s. And yeah, first one I opened, perfect quality control, and I saw the aircraft, and I'm just like, yep, you're mine. So it was a pretty quick on-the-spot decision, and it's a nice model. I haven't seen any quality control issues with it, mainly because it's a JC Wings mold, and usually these sometimes arrive damaged or completely broken, and I haven't seen any reports of that yet, so I'm going to assume the quality control in this model is pretty good. So that's the story with that one. The last model that I'd like to feature as a part of the main section of this massive unboxing is the Aviation 400 Air Canada Boeing 777-300 Extra Range. I got this from Panda Fox Toys in Nevada, and this was the final commercial airliner that I got out of this massive unboxing series that I'd like to mention at least. And it's a pretty good model. As I said earlier, I was trying to increase the Air Canada fleet in my plane collection, and I saw that they had this in stock, and I already know that the Aviation 400 777-300 is amazing, so I bought this, and here it is. I really don't have that much to say about it. I'm just glad that I have the aircraft. And yeah, on this one, the fan blades do spin, unlike the other one, which I thought they did, but I guess they don't. And it looks like there's some sort of thing inside of, I guess there's something that was caught inside the fan blade there. I'm not sure what that was. Looked like a little piece of like trash or something. Uh-oh. There we go. Right one spins as well. I love when the fan blades spin. I love the engine details. And that's all I really have to say about this one. I don't really think too much of it. It's just a great model. Glad I have it. The last aircraft that will be featured in this massive unboxing episode is not an aircraft at all. It is actually a spacecraft, and this is a replica of the Space Shuttle Pathfinder, which was featured on the TV show For All Mankind. I got this model a few days ago in late December of 2022, and you guys probably are not familiar with this spacecraft because it doesn't exist. This is a fictional spacecraft, like I said, created on a TV show called For All Mankind, and I loved it instantaneously. It's the scene that it's in, it's very cool, and I figured, okay, I'll do anything I can to get a model of this. And I saw a model listing on Etsy for this, and, well, the intrusive thoughts got me, and I bought it. Got it in October of 2022, and it didn't get here until December of 2022. So you might be wondering, well, why is that? Well, for starters, the store where this model is made is in Russia. So you can imagine how concerned I was regarding the shipping situation due to the situation with Russia and Ukraine right now. And of course, I mean, yeah, ordering from the United States was probably going to be a nightmare, right? Well, I ordered things, I did my research and I ordered it and things seemed to be going smoothly, but not only because of geographical location, but also because this model is handmade. It's made out of a high-density plastic composite material from the looks of it, and it's pretty impressive. I mean, for being handmade, there's quite a few issues with it that I pointed out in the review that I made already that I'm going to post shortly after this, but it's still pretty impressive nonetheless. It's very accurate to the Pathfinder in the show, and I'm just very excited to have this because I've been waiting for a while to get this model. And I mean, it was certainly a risk to get this model because I wasn't sure if it was going to be good quality or not, and it was certainly expensive too because my wallet did not appreciate this. This is actually the most expensive model in my collection as of today, so yeah, just to put that into perspective. And there's a few models that are pretty high up there in price, but this one beats all of them by a long shot. A model in my collection would not be a model in my collection without modifications, though. I did modify this model right away after I made the review, and I painted the cockpit windows, and I've painted a few details here on the crew cabin. So originally the cockpit windows looked like this, and I did not like that at all, because one, it's not accurate, and two, it just looked sloppy. So I started by painting the window frames black, like on the Pathfinder in the show, to show that the thermal protection system surrounds the glass of the cockpit windows. And I also did the same with the docking windows here. And then after that, I painted the windows themselves with a dark gray-blue color. I did the same with the crew access hatch right here. You can barely see it, but that's supposed to be a window that's painted dark gray-blue. Did that with the cockpit windows and the docking windows there too. So yeah, those are the modifications I did with it. I also did a few extra touch-ups on some paint issues that I noticed, but those are pretty insignificant. Now it's time for special mentions. I have 3 models that I'd like to list in this category. I think it's 3. Is it 3? I hope it's 3. Anyway, I'm too excited by doing this video. I lost count of it. The first model is this Icelandair 757-200 and 1/200 scale. This is the Gemini version, so you might be wondering why I got this. Well, normally I wouldn't get this model because normally it sells for an insane price, upwards of $200 US. And I mean, it's a beautiful model, but it's not something I like to have in my collection, but I still have it anyway. So the story behind this one is that I actually got this in August of 2022 before I went on my inactivity period. I didn't display it or anything once I got it, and I didn't have any intentions to make any reviews about it, so I figured I'd show it off here. This model is coming from the same friend who I mentioned earlier is collecting all of those Delta planes, and he saw this one and decided to trade it for a few models that I had, and it also had an issue with its nose gear that I fixed. I don't have the landing gear attached right now because I just don't feel like it. There was an issue with the nose gear doors that I fixed right after I got the model, and here it is. It's in my collection. I'm very glad that I have it. Certainly a surprise. It's a beautiful aircraft. I love Icelandair's special liveries, especially this one, and I love Icelandair's livery in general, so I'm glad that I have it. And yeah, that's the story behind it. I'm not sure what I want to do with it, but I'm probably going to keep this one in my collection for a very long time. The second model that I'd like to give a special mention to is this toy. Now, you might be wondering why I bought this. You're just like, it's a toy. What does a model collector want to do with a toy? Well, this is the Dark Star aircraft from the movie Top Gun Maverick. And me being an aviation enthusiast and someone who wants to become an astronaut or naval aviator in the future, I instantly fell in love with Top Gun Maverick. It's an amazing movie, and I really liked it, specifically the Dark Star aircraft. Now, there's a few things regarding the practicality and the feasibility of an aircraft like Dark Star. For example, Mach 10 would not be the best idea for a manned aircraft because obviously things can go south pretty quickly with that. But I'm not going to talk about the technicalities of that. But I love the scene. It's just beautiful. I love the plane, and of course, I like to have replicas of the things that I like. And there was no scale model kits for this, no professionally built professionally built die-cast models like the airplanes I collect, and the closest thing to it was this Matchbox toy that was released in 2020. So I got it. It was pretty cheap. I got it off of an eBay auction, and yeah, here it is. I figured I'd mention it because I love Dark Star. It's a really nice looking and sounding aircraft. It sounds really cool, and just a lot of the scientific and practical concepts behind it fascinate me because I just love aerospace, and I love the idea of a top secret airplane going at 10 times the speed of sound way over our heads. So that's the story behind this one. And the last model that I'd like to feature in this video is a model that is not new at all, actually. I've had this model since I was a kid. So you might be wondering why I'm bringing it up. Well, back then I collected a few 1 to 200 scale aircraft, and I mistreated them so badly. This model was so damaged and messed up, and well, recently I was able to get some spare parts from another model that I damaged even more, and I was able to restore this model with the spare parts that I had. This model had issues with its landing gear. Both of the wheels were missing, but aside from that, they were in good condition. And one of the antennas was missing as well, this antenna up here. So I got some spare antennas and wheels, and I glued them onto the model. And yeah, here it is. You can see it's definitely been through some good treatment. Right here, there's a scratch on the air brakes, more scratches, and a scratch on the fuselage. But aside from that, it's in decent condition, and I figured I'd bring that up. And with that comes an end to Massive Unboxing Episode 2. It's been a long time, guys, and I'm glad to be back, and I hope you guys are glad to see me back. Stay tuned for some reviews that will come in the near future. As I mentioned earlier, I already have one review planned, and that review is for the Pathfinder Space Shuttle that I talked about a few minutes ago. And if you guys want to see reviews of any of the aircraft in this review or any aircraft in my collection, drop those down below in the comment section, and I'll get straight to doing that. I also have a model fleet database where you can see every 1 to 400 scale aircraft that I own. So if you guys want to see reviews out of any of those, I'll put a link to that down in the description below. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to start uploading regularly very soon. Take care of yourselves, especially in this cold. Happy holidays, and see you next time.